Hi, and welcome. I'm Amanda Sidgen, and friends call me Mandy. So we are here to do a paint party together on Zoom tonight. And I have two lovely ladies that are going to join me here tonight. And we're going to do an Easter Bunny project. So it's quite easy for a beginner step of learning one stroke. These are just a few strokes that we're going to practice on the side to get the flowers down and the ribbon and the body, and the eggs are in the grass. They're all pretty simple things we're going to do. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our backgrounds done so that while they're drying, we're going to do some practice on some paper. So hopefully you guys brought some practice paper with you, some sort of little pad. I have this little booklet that I've got from Michaels, and anytime I'm doing any practice stroke work and stuff like that, I just keep this little booklet so it helps remind me of different classes, because sometimes I'm a student too with Donna, so you know I'm always pushing myself to learn and practice more too. So it's good to have a little booklet to keep them all in. So have a little paper there, and then also hopefully you have your pattern printed out and some carbon paper. So I sent you two of them. And one's good for a smaller canvas if you just want to do a small little one, 9 by 12. And then this one is 12 by 16. So this is for a little bigger. But what we're going to do is we're just going to add a little extra for the ears and, you know, where the eggs are and the grass is going to be. So we can always put those parts in. But this one's a little bit enlarged more. So if you wanted to do a bigger canvas, then just hopefully you'll have the one printed off that you're going to work on tonight. Okay, so we have all our colors. We have an orange, a white. I'm going to move my camera over a little bit more here so you can see my table. Pink melon, black. You could use either or camel or honeycomb, whatever you have. It's like a soft beigey color. And if you need to make it a little bit darker, you can always add a tiny little bit of burnt auburn if you want a little bit more dimension in your bunny rabbit. Okay. So we have the two greens, a lime green and a sap green. And we have a teal should be somewhere. A teal and a cobalt blue. And a yellow, and I think that's it. All right, so we have all our paints ready, but all we're going to start with is our lime green for the bottom. And then we're going to use like a teal or an aqua for the top, and you're going to mix that with some white. Okay, so we can start by loading our palette with the colors that we're going to need. And also some floating medium. You guys know what floating medium is? It's just the fluff that's in the paint without the color. And it helps slide your strokes a lot easier for you because our paints are really thick and fluffy, which a lot of times we want them that way, but we want control. And sometimes when our paint is sitting on our palette, it starts to dry out. So the floating medium is an awesome tool to be able to dilute it a little bit, so then that way you can go a lot further with your strokes. And I'm going to show you examples of that in a little bit there when you see me in action. Okay, so we need a little bit of white, a little bit of lime green, and I have my aqua. And some sponges. These are Donna sponges, very well used. Whatever you have, even if you have like the little round ones, you get these at the dollar store. So you can start with either way you want. You can do the aqua first or the green first. It doesn't really matter. But what we're going to do is we're going to make sure our plate is secure and also add just a titch of floating medium there. And I'm going to wet my sponge and then wring it out really good. And what I do is I dab it just a little bit on the old towel, just so that you're not getting any drips falling down. So you want to keep a little bit of that moisture in there, but you don't want it soaking wet. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to dip one corner of our sponge with one color, and we're going to dip the other color on the other side. So when you're dipping, just try to grab one side. Then when you do the white, you're getting it on both sides, right? So right in the middle, you can start blending them together, working them into the sponge. You see I didn't clean my sponge very good. I still got a little bit of teal in there. Okay, so if you need more, you're going to add a little bit more on each corner. And just work it in until you see the blend starting to happen in the middle. Okay, so if you feel like it's too dry, then you can always add a little bit more floating medium into it, and then it'll run a little bit more. Instead of going back and adding water, we're just going to add some floating medium now if we need more moisture. Okay, so you can start at the top and just slowly work your way across, back and forth, blending it in a little softer, a little bit away. And I always like to do the whole round of the sides too, because in that we don't need to have a frame for this. It's easily to just put on a tack, it'll hang, and it's only for a little while in Easter season, and then we're going to put it away for a year. So, so it just shouldn't take you too long to do your background. You're just kind of doing soft strokes upside down with the green. Okay. How's everybody doing there? So you guys don't have your camera on the on your painting, so I can't see how you're doing. But oh yeah, you're doing great. Okay, I'll keep moving then. You're doing really good. Okay, so now what I suggest is to flip it over. Okay, because it's always easier working your way down as opposed to trying to work your way up, in my opinion. Okay. So now I'm going to do is flip my sponge over and use the other side. It's clean, right? So we only used 1/2 of our sponge. So we can easily just use the other side. And if you have a small sponge, then maybe you want to rinse it out and clean it. But you can definitely just use both sides of Donna's brushes or sponges. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with the white and blue, or the aqua. Okay. I'm going to start at the top, go right around the top of my edge, down the sides. If you feel like it's not dark enough, then just add a little bit more blue. If you think that it's too blue, just add a little bit more white. Okay, and then you can softly blend that in. I find that my canvas is a little bit dry, so I'm just going to go into my floating medium just a titch, just so that I can get a little bit more blending happening. You don't want to see any dry spots, and sometimes our canvas buckles in the corners there. Okay, so it's a pretty quick background. And if you want to get a little bit more of a neater straight line, you can just flip her over again. And now I'm going to put some pressure on the edge of my sponge, and I'm going to draw a line right across my canvas. So you can see that it's a little bit more stronger line. If you like to have a soft blend, you can just blend it right in. But sometimes it's a little bit easier just to make a nice solid line. Make sure your sides are all blended. Okay. And that's it for our background. Okay. And it doesn't have to worry about being too straight, because sometimes we have hills in the background, and you know, our landscape is not always straight across. You have a little bit of texture. We're going to put some grass and stuff like that around it. So if there's anything that you don't like, we can always usually find a way to be able to put a flower on it or put some grass on it. Okay. So while that's drying, if you can set that aside. It shouldn't take too long. Can you guys see okay? Thumbs up? Okay, good. All right, so we can just rest this in our water bottle on the side or water basin, and then that way it'll keep it moist, so then it'll be easier to clean our sponge. If you leave it out and you forget about it and 2 hours later you try to wash it, then that's how, you know, it starts to dry on you and gets harder and harder to clean, which, you know, I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I learn everything the hard way, it seems. Okay. So we should have a little bit of white still left on our palette. And we're also going to have some colors that we can play with right now just to practice. Right? So I always find that it's easier to practice with a bigger brush and then work your way down. So this, if I was doing this size of a canvas, definitely I wouldn't be using my big 3/4 inch. I'd be using 10s and 12s. Okay, so if you're going to do the big canvas, then you can get away with using the bigger 3/4 and 16 inches. All right, so what we're going to do is dampen our brush a little bit and then just kind of wipe it on a towel quickly just so it's not soft and wet. And what I like to do too is I'm always fixing my chisel edge, because sometimes when we're cleaning our brushes, they end up all wonky and separated like that. So one thing that you have to do to keep these chisels really nice is when you clean your brush in soap and water and you go put it away for the night and let it dry, I always let it dry on a towel. And then what I do before I leave it dry is I squish it. Okay, so we want to make sure that we keep it nice and together, and then when it dries, it'll stay like that. If you go and leave it like this on a towel and it's all wonky, it'll dry like that and it'll start to lose its shape. Okay, so I hope that's a little helpful trick for you guys when you're cleaning your brushes, to really make sure that you get all the paint out and then squish it to get all that water out and then let it dry like this. Okay. Alrighty. So we're going to start with some daisy strokes. And really all I want you to do right now is just pick up one color. If you find your white is a little bit thick, then just add a little bit of floating medium into it. Okay. And you can practice just on the plate and see what you get there. Just kind of do little flicks on the chisel and see, is it dragging? Is it feel like it's got too thick of paint? Then you might want a little bit more floating medium. You definitely don't want too much, because then it's going to be too runny and too see-through. You won't get enough coverage. Okay, so we're just going to load up our brush. And when I load up my brush, I really push hard. You see how the paint is right up into the bristles? If you don't push the paint all the way up, you're only going to get half a stroke. When you start to put pressure onto your brush, you're not going to get the whole load of your brush. Now I'm kind of running out of white paint, so I'm just going to add a little bit more. Now the trick about daisy strokes is your brush is, however wide it is you have to double that. Now I'm going to make a big, big, big daisy. So if you want to double that, that's how long each petal is going to be. Because by the time you go to push down and then pull up, you basically two widths of your flat brush. Can you see that? So we're going to pretend this is the center of our daisy. Going to load up some more paint. And then what Donna always likes to do too is to do like a clock. So you're going to do the 12 o'clock, and then you're going to do the 3 o'clock. You're going to push, and then you're going to pull up just before you get to the center. Now we're going to do the 9 o'clock and push up. Oop, I'm a little bit too far away. So I got to measure here and here. So really I should have been a little closer there. So I can just pull a little longer stroke there. I'm trying to do it in a way where you guys can see. Okay, so if you measure 2, 1, 2, this is where you're going to start. Is right at the point there, and push down, and then pull up. Okay, so now you can put 2 more. The more you push, if you don't push very hard, you're going to get very skinny ones. If you push really, really hard, you're going to get fatter ones. Okay, so it really just depends on your daisy, and sometimes it's good to have that mixture of both too. You don't, in the perfect world, our daisies are never perfect. Some are overlapping each other, you know. Some of them are a little bit more noticeable. Okay, so you're just gonna fill in now. You know, your 4 o'clock, your 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Okay. And to do a really, really quick center, all I do is I use the end of my brush, and I just dot in, dab a little bit of green or yellow. I got green on my plate right now, so I'm just going to use that. Okay, so that's a really quick center. If you have a scruffy, those are really handy for doing centers as well. And what I like to do with that is I'm going to load half of it with the green and half of it with white or yellow. Again, I'm just practicing, so we're just going to use what we have on our plate. And we're going to pounce that in to work it in. Okay, so you see how I had to put it on the table to get a really good pounce on there. So you're just blending it in. And really I've only got 3/4 of it with the green and maybe 1/3 or 1/4 of it white. Right, so that gives it a little highlight. And you're going to pounce it into your plate really well. And then when you pounce it into your middle, you're going to get your center with the highlight at the same time. Okay, so there's different size scrunchies. If this one's too big, then you could always go a little smaller. Okay. So I'm going to show you again with a smaller brush, which was going to be more what we're going to use for the class. Okay. So again, we're going to load up our brush. Now, not all your daisies are going to look straight on you, and they're all perfectly, you know, some of them are tilted up, some are tilted sideways, you know, so you can get a lot of different variations of your daisies. You see some are just like a side view. There are only a few petals sideways. Some I only put 2. Down here, or 3, I only put 2 down here. You know, so we're going to make a little bit of variety of daisies for this project. So maybe only 2 of them are going to be really full. So also what you can do is make them shorter and smaller at the top. And once you feel comfortable with your daisy strokes, you don't always have to do the 12, 3, and 9. You can keep going. And then just have a little center dot there just to keep you focused to where you want to be. And then I go around the other way. And then as I get over to the side, I try to go a lot bigger and a lot wider. And you're going to see the result when I'm done. And we're just going to throw, oh, this one's pretty short. And we're just going to throw a little quick center in there just so you can see. And you can do a little bit more of an egg shape sideways. And if you can see the results of that, it looks like the flower's tipping up now. And the same thing will happen in reverse. So if you do your bigger strokes all at the top and your smaller ones at the bottom, it'll start looking like it's tipping down. Again, if you want it to tip towards the east or the west, okay, you're going to make most of your strokes bigger on the one side And then as you start to come around, you can come a little smaller and shorter. Can you see the difference? It's all about just having fun. Remember, the wind is blowing, you know, the petals are all over the place. So it's okay to have, you know, a little bit of movement, looking like you have movement in your daisy. You like those tricks there about how to make it face different directions? Okay, so again, if we just want to do a little bit of bud, it's just starting to come out. You know, you can always do a 3, you know, and then make these guys really skinny on the edge. Make your middle ones bigger, and then as you come out to the side of profile of your, right, and then you can always pull a stem in there. And what I like to do at the top, like that's just a little tiny line, you're going to actually put a little bit of pressure and do 2, it's almost like you're doing more daisy strokes. And it gives you a little bit more of a base for your little bud. Okay, so we can do that on the base of some of our little daisies. Okay, so do you guys feel comfortable with the 1-stroke leaf? No, not yet. Okay, so we're going to double load our brush. Okay, so you see how I got a good amount on there? And then we're going to go back and forth on our plate. Now, depending on the flower, sometimes you, again, if you've seen the ratio that I was doing earlier, there's less white, more blue. Sometimes our flowers, we want to do more blue and less white. So it just depends on how much highlight you want on your leaf or on your flower petal. Okay, because my floating medium is starting to run in my way. Okay, so with our 1-stroke leaf, if you visualize a line here and a line here, okay, you're going to do 2 horizontals, a little bit on an angle. You're going to start at the first one. Just lean your brush over. And then I'm not even at that other point yet. Then slide to that other line. I'm trying to do it really slow. I'm not sure if you guys are seeing me good here. That's better. I have to learn how to do left-handed. Which, you know, they're all going to go in different directions. Okay, so it's a little bit of a point. So you're really popping up on your chisel. Can you see the angle of my brush? Add a little bit more paint. Work it in. Again, you see how low my paint is? Almost right to the edge there, where my fural starts. So this is the only kind of little leaf. And if they're not perfect, that's okay. As long as they're green and mixed in with some flowers, people are going to know that they're leaves. And then the more you practice, the more they're going to have a little bit more flair to them. Okay, so the more you press, the fatter they're going to look. The less you press, the skinnier they're going to look. Okay, so if you want to make a longer leaf, what you're going to do is going to slide more, and then just at the 3/4 mark, that's when you start putting up on your chisel, and then you have a longer slider leaf. Okay, and then what we can do is we can add a vein in there. And depending on if your leaf is more dark or more light, if you start your little whisk, and this is how we do our grass, is just kind of double loading your brush and doing little flicks. Okay, so it's starting to look too light. You can add more dark. Also, when you flip your brush the other way and you lead with your white, you're going to get different colors. So you flip your brush and you lead with the color that you want to see less, right? So you're going to push with the green first. You're going to see more white because your white is going to be the tail end when you start to flick out. When you turn it the other way and push and lead with your white, your last color will be your green. Okay, so we can do these little strokes into our leaf to give it the little vein. Do a little curve, get a little happy, and try to loosen up. Okay, if you don't feel comfortable with doing your little veins with the flat brush, you could always do it with a little liner brush. Okay, so you just water that down a little bit to moisten it up because it's never been used in a while. Right, and then you can always use that to do your little flick. One of my best brushes. And there's some smaller liner brushes and longer brushes. There we go. This is a good one. Okay. So you can always do your grass with a little liner brush. You can also double load your liner brush too. So what you're going to do is pick up green. See, it's starting to get thick. And I have a heater underneath my desk here, so my pink gets dried out very fast. So I just put a little bit of floating medium, work that in. So it's not a big clump. It's just worked in really well. Then I drag it through the white. So you just double loaded your liner brush now. So when you do your little flicks, you're going to get the size of your pressure. So this one here, you can get really fat grass. Or if you just water it down a little bit more, pick up some more white, and just do very light touches, then you're going to get a tinier little stroke. Okay. Alright, so let's show you this ribbon now. Is everybody okay so far? Yep, thumbs up, good, good. Okay, so we want to make sure there's enough floating medium to do the ribbon, because if you don't have enough floating medium in there, it's really not going to, you can see it's slippery, it's really slippery and slidey. Especially when you're practicing on paper, because it's a lot drier. When we go to do the canvas, if you're having a hard time with your stroke dragging on the paper, no problem, because when you get to the canvas, it'll have a lot more movement. Paper is so dry, especially this cardstock is very dry. Okay, so when we do our ribbon, I'm going to start with the white at the top. And you're going to make a big C, and you're not going to be flipping your brush this way and that way. You're going to keep it in one direction, and you're going to do like a C around, and then you're just going to curve it all the way back into the center. You see that? Just make it simple for now. Just do a simple C. Okay? Then, once you feel comfortable with the Then you can always get a little fancier and give it a little wiggle, you know, so then it's a little bit more ribbony. But that's all about pressing and lifting to get that wiggle. So to learn how to do that wiggle, you'll do it more with the ribbon when we do the outside ribbon. Okay, so now I'm going to do the other side of the ribbon, and it's just in the other direction. Lift up on your chisel, and then bring it back. Okay, so you can see how my stroke got a little dry there. Again, don't worry too much about it while you're practicing on the paper. You just want to make sure that you're understanding how to get that highlight on the top, flipping the ribbon over, and getting that highlight again at the top again. Okay, so this is probably the hardest part of this, is learning the ribbon. Okay, so I'll show you again. We're going out and then back in. So I'm lifting up, I'm pressing down really hard. Then just as I get to the outside, I'm lifting up and then putting pressure on it again and then lifting up again. You guys see that? You can move this little sidebar if it's in your way too to the other side, or make it smaller or bigger, or move it out of your way if it's in the way. Okay, so now just to finish our ribbon, we can just do a little side stroke like this, and that gives us our little knot in the middle. Now remember, we're going to be putting flowers all around this ribbon too, so any parts that you don't like, we can always stick a flower or a leaf on it. So in a way, this was probably the hardest technique to try to do, is the ribbon. But once you get the hang of it, it is actually so much fun. So what we're going to do is we start at the base of our knot, and we're going to go sideways a little bit to start our ribbon, so then it's nice and fat at the base. And then we're going to pick up our chisel, go down a little bit, and then over. I'm going right over my daisy. Okay, and a little bit over, and pick it up, and then down again. It's a little bit dry, but I'm hoping you guys are going to see that if you don't like the very tail end, you can always just wisp it back in. It's almost like that one stroke leaf. Okay, so that just gives it a little bit of movement, how your ribbon is moving. The more we practice this, the better our ribbons will look. Okay, so you're also going to practice the other way. You can always go over here and just try and practice the ribbon by itself. So a little bit on the side, and then pick up your brush, and push down, pick up your brush, and then you can do that a couple times. Once you get the hang of this, then you can start making your ribbon a little bit different, you know, where you're dragging a little bit longer, and then a little bit of a lift, and then just a small little tail. So again, it's how you feel about the ribbon. Maybe one way it's flying and it's a lot longer than the other two. I'm going to change my paper here for you. Okay, so sometimes they're, you know, a little bit flied away shorter. Then you can make the other one a little longer. Maybe it's flipping in two directions. If you really want to make an advanced one, so you're going to start up on your chisel, start dry paper, and then maybe it flips to the other way. Okay, you guys catching that ribbon? It's all about pressing and then pushing and then popping up and then pushing and then popping up. And you're doing it a little bit on an angle. So you're starting on an angle to get, and go sideways, push up, flatten. Does my hand make a nice palette? I'm just trying to make sure that you guys are seeing what I'm doing and not confusing you in the process. So you think you can handle the ribbon? You guys can unmute yourself now. Oh, there we go. Unmute, unmute. There you go. Now you can talk to us. What do you think so far? Am I going too fast?
What size brush are you using for the ribbon?
That was a 12.
The 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, if you're doing a smaller project than that, like test your sizes. Try a 10, try a 8, and then you'll see the size that you achieve with it. And then when you go to the canvas, then you'll know which size of ribbon you want to do.
My ribbon's a little weird. I'll show it to you.
Yes, please. You gotta talk while you show.
Oh, can you see it?
You know, that's not bad at all. That's great.
And I'm actually comfortable with the one stroke leaf. It's the wiggle leaves that I end up with a big gob of paint in the middle. Not that we're doing those, but
No, that's okay. I can always show.
I'm more uncomfortable with. The one stroke one is I think is fairly...
When you're doing one of those leaves, I'll show you. I'll tell you quickly what it probably is you know, when you're loading your brush, sometimes we only need to reload more white. And if you're reloading both colors every time, because the light, whatever color is going to be the outside, is going to move more than the inside.
Okay.
So you need more floating medium and more paint on the side that's moving more.
Oh, okay.
So when you go to pick up the inside color, where you say you're getting too much paint buildup, don't pick up as much.
Okay.
And then sometimes we can just go and reload in our paint, like when we go to blend it out. That's sometimes enough just to freshen up the one side.
Okay.
But then we need more white or a lighter color if you choose to do the light on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And when you blend, you're really only adding on to the one side.
Okay.
And if this side is too dry, then I don't put my whole brush into the medium. I'll only put a tiny corner of the side that I want to extend.
Okay. Well,
that way I only have the one side that's more runny.
Okay.
And does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, anything I can help with. If you feel like you want to throw in a leaf, then just use an 8 or a 10, and then it's going to be a little smaller. And then you can always put a couple of full leaves in your design today too. And there's no rules. Just because we have a project and I sent you a picture, it does not need to be exactly place for place. Just because I have, you know, these 2 leaves here, well, maybe yours can stick out a little bit more. That won't hurt. You know what I mean? You're gonna make it your own creation by the end of it, and that's okay. So you can see how this ribbon here, you hardly even see the bow.
Okay.
I wasn't happy with the way it was looking, so I put a flower right on top of it. You know, so there's no nothing that's really gonna be hurting too much. And also, as we get going, I'm going to show you some tricks how to remove it before it sets. So then that way you can erase it and then try again.
Okay.
If you're using the multi-surface paints,
yes,
they are amazing for that. Because once they're dry, you can paint over it and wipe it off very easy. If you're just using the regular acrylic paints, they tend to wipe off. You're going to wipe off your background.
Oh, okay.
Right? So that's why now when I buy paints, I don't buy too many of the regular ones. Because then it restricts me too. Then I'm only stuck with canvas or paper painting.
Well, we had some problems finding some of the multi-surface colors in our area. We live in a real rural area.
Where are you, by the way?
Franklin, Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow. Right on.
And it's rural here. We had to go all the way to Erie, Pennsylvania, to try to find some of the colors.
Right. Yeah, some girls will order right from Plaid. And then some, like if I can't find it at Michael's, a lot of times they're sold out on all the popular ones.
Yeah.
I have to order them from Donna, and then I'm getting the extra shipping from Florida. Of course, I'm in Canada,
Right.
and it's like cost me $50 anytime I want to order anything. Just
Oh my
shipping.
goodness.
Oh yeah, I had like a half decent size box. You can see this is one of her standard boxes.
Right.
That's about $50 to ship to Canada.
Oh my goodness.
Well, maybe it'd be about 35, 40 US, but then as soon as I change it to Canadian funds, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to be one of the bonuses for you guys. When you take my classes, I'm charging $30 Canadian. You guys are paying American.
Oh, yeah.
So you get a little bonus there.
Yeah. Well, when we went up to Erie, it was a girls' day out anyway, so it was just kind of a fun day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to get a better camera. As I get going, I'm learning, right? And then I'm going to start investing more in my technology. And it's been a real challenge in a way, learning all this stuff, like even how to put videos up and stuff.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, I'm an artist first, IT guy, photographer, videographer.
Well, as we discussed on the phone, I'm no good at the computer either.
Yeah. So I'm learning. I'm just getting there.
Yeah.
I just need a little better tripod.
What Canada are you in?
Yeah. So if you guys want to
She couldn't.
trace on your backgrounds now, we can do that. And then we're going to take a little bit of a break. So if you want to continue practicing making more daisies on paper, then definitely you can do that.
Okay.
And practice more ribbons with different size brushes. Then when we come back from break, then we'll start working on our bunnies. How's that sound?
Good.
Good.
Yeah. I haven't even got a clock in front of me, so I don't even know how much time we've been on here yet. But I'm just going to stop the recording now, and we'll come back for part 2.
So we'll go ahead and trace the bunny?
Yeah. Yeah, you can do that if you like.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to stop the recording now.